All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for some more One Hub racing. It's P3 tier here at 6:30 on Friday night, and as always, I am joined with ERT Toma. And are you looking forward to this round 5 here at Hungary, even though it might be a little bit more difficult to overtake?
Absolutely. Quite strangely, Hungary is usually one of my favourite tracks to race at. I like the general flow of the track, especially in the second sector. But yeah, it can. Yeah, there's only really two main overtaking spots into turn one and into turn two. But I'm hoping that just the general action on track will be very exciting.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a lot of strategy involved, and also this is a very great track for hot laps. So this qualifying session will be definitely a good one to watch as we see the drivers nail all of the turns. But before we do, after the Queen of England passing, we're going to take a minute silence just to remember her. So we're going to start that now. Thank you, everyone, for that minute of silence. And now that's over. The drivers are starting to get themselves out on track, and we are ready to get started with this Hungarian qualifying session. So you can see, for the first time, well, not in One Hub Racing, but at least here in the P3 tier, this is going to be a cross-play lobby. You can see it's the odd man out. It's Evil Dragon in the AlphaTauri playing on his PC. So he's the one driver in this lobby, not on PlayStation. And, it's a good testing ground to see if everything with cross-platform works, if we'll be able to use it for the next season, if we can possibly get some more Xbox drivers, PC drivers into the league and help it to grow. And, if we can, we could definitely see a lot more drivers racing in One Hub Racing. So definitely a good place to try and test it out here with Evil Dragon in the AlphaTauri. And you can see himself and ESW Hooky are the first two to come out on track. The two AlphaTauri teammates getting ready to start their first hot laps of the session. But before they do, it's round 5 of 8 now. So we're getting into that second half of the season where the championship standings are getting quite mixed up, and we're going to see a bit of a championship battle emerge in these final few rounds. And looking at the standings right now, we currently have Kong Hofner leading the championship standings with 46 points, but just 3 points behind. Surprisingly, it's ERT Jordan, although I believe that. I think there might have been a miscalculation with the points, because obviously he got P4 in round 2, P2 in round 4, and P3 in round 5. So I don't think that equals up to 43 points if my maths is not mistaken. But it says he's there. And Gazaman in P3 in the standings on 40 points. He's just 6 points behind. So really, I'm not sure. Maybe my maths are completely off. I think it says ERT Jordan is P2 in the standings, Konghofer P1, and Gazaman P3. So those are the main 3 rivals in this championship battle. And I know we have still got 4 rounds to go, but out of those 3, who would be your favorite seeing their performance in the first half of the season?
I think personally I would go Kong Hofner. From all we've seen from the season, he's just been incredibly consistent. Very little mistakes going on through his races. I just think that consistency is key in a lot of situations, especially in a title fight. For example, ERT Jordan, we've not really seen him up near the top step. Somehow found himself in P2 because I believe he's just been so consistent getting high place finishes where other drivers may have been getting high place finishes somewhere else. They've not turned up to a race or they've DNF'd in others. So, but all in all, I think I'm going to have to go for Kong now.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the fan favourites in this championship. Obviously, after absolutely dominating the Miami Grand Prix, that's definitely one of the performances that comes to mind. He obviously won that race, and that's his only race win of the season so far. But yeah, it's looking like it could be a decent Hungarian Grand Prix. You can see a lot of people currently out on lap times. We have Evil Dragon currently on pole position with a 1 minute 17.1, but we have plenty of other drivers on their laps. Looks like Gabri in the Williams finishing off their lap time. Racing Bomber, the man who won last time out in Imola, is put it on provisional pole position with a 16.9. We have Gabri in the Williams coming across the line now, and she can post a 17.4. That is just 6/10 off of the provisional pole time set by Racing Bombers. So not too far behind, but like I said, it's with most of these tracks. All of the tracks except for Miami have all been very short lap times, under 1 minute and 20 seconds. And I've said it once in all those rounds, and I'll say it again here. It's very hard to make up time at these short tracks. There's not that much time to find because there's not as many turns, and track invalidations are also quite common because you're trying to push those limits as hard as you possibly can. And going into the race, do you think we could see a lot of 3-second time penalties, possibly mixing up the grid?
Definitely, because I believe it's very easy to run wide, especially going up the uphill left, just heading into sector 2. Very easy to run wide or even cut that turn. The chicane also shortly after that in sector 2 can be cut a little bit and sometimes can run wide. So I believe some penalties might come into play and might be a deciding factor in a lot of results.
It definitely could. So not only do the drivers have to be pacey in the qualifying and the race, but they also have to be very consistent as well. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I was saying, consistency is going to be quite a big factor, and strategy too, because around this track, if you get stuck behind someone who's quite a bit quicker than you, chances are you're going to be losing a lot of time to your competitors around, just because it's so hard to overtake that car that's slower than you. You have to be around 8/10 a lap faster or something like that, or either have a big ERS advantage over the driver ahead. So overtaking is going to be quite difficult around this track. But before we continue on with this qualifying session, I'd like to mention one of OneHub's racing sponsors, Next Level Racing. They provide some great sim racing gear such as play seats and cockpits, and you can go find yourself whatever you need in the link in the description, and they do produce some very high quality stuff. And I know if I was going to buy from somewhere, it would definitely have to be Next Level Racing. But we now have 9 minutes left in this qualifying session, so not too long to go. And you can see here, I haven't touched on it just yet, but we're now gotten to that stage where I think we can start to talk about it. The grid penalties, the engine penalties that a lot of drivers have had to take. So over the course of the season, their engines have been getting quite worn, and now a couple of the drivers. So we saw, I think it was ESW Hooky and Speed Quinn taking grid penalties last time out, but this week we see MFC Trunders, M Pricey, Lawrence D and ERT Jordan. They've all retired from the session because they have grid penalties. They all have to start from the very back of the grid, and it's just going to be a random order who starts in front of who. So yeah, I think obviously ERT Jordan, who's second in the standings there, as we actually were riding on board with Cyanex there. You can see he got it getting wheel spin out of the final turn, getting ready to start his hot lap, actually hit the wall there, and I think he might have wing damage, so he's going to probably have to abandon this lap because he's just not going to have the grip that he wants. So but yeah, if we go back to the grid penalties, ERT Jordan currently P2 in the standings, and Lawrence D is also someone who we've seen up there quite a few times, and M. Pricey, I think he joined quite late on in the season, but he showed us in Austria that he's here and he can win races. So, you know, along with consistency, pace, qualifying, 3-second time penalties, grid penalties, this could be a very exciting Hungarian Grand Prix for a track that's so difficult to overtake at.
Yeah, strategy plays a big part in here, like we said earlier. Not a lot of overtaking spots, so strategy will have to be key here. So maybe the engine penalties will make drivers take that alternate strategy, maybe start on the mediums or the hards, and try and conserve those tyres to try and go for the soft runs at the end, because the soft tyres will obviously be a vastly greater tyre than the other compounds. So if they start on the auto strategy, try and conserve those and try and get maybe 2 soft stints at the end, or maybe just get 2 soft stints in and try and drive the wheels off the car and try and get the most most advantage they can out of those fresh tyres.
Yeah, and you know, getting that advantage, getting the most out of your tyres, it's going to be absolutely crucial, like you said, at this track. But we could also see some drivers, you know, starting on the hard tyres, try to go for that overcut, like you said, and you know, get ahead of the opposition, because that track position is just so crucial. And if you're in the clean air, you're pretty much going to be gaining time on anyone who isn't, because you just lose so much time. Whether the guy ahead of you is faster, whether they're slower, you're most likely just losing time purely because of that dirty air. But I just had a relook at the standings, and I think something's slightly off with the calculations of how these standings are done, because I just calculated them up there, or maybe they're showing the wrong results, I'm not sure. But it looks like Gazdaman has 45 points, and Colin Hoffner is just a little bit ahead of him. ERT Jordan isn't even close to 43, so yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the championship standings. Hopefully that's all fixed in good time, but just know that it's mainly Colin Hoffner and Gazaman who are really fighting for that championship, with you know, people like M. Pricey trying to get themselves in there, Evil Dragon making a few appearances in the top 5. So we'll focus on that later, but right now we're focusing on the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session. We have Racing Bomber, who's just been in an even faster time. He already had provisional pole over ERT Thomas by 3/100, but he needed to solidify that, and that's exactly what he's done. He's now improved by 0.6 of a second. He's on a 16.3, and he's pretty much clear of anyone who has set a lap time at this stage, with his closest competitor obviously being ERT Thomas on that 13 or 16.9. He's about to set a new lap time, and it's a 16.7. He improves by 0.2. That's not quite fast enough. Evil Dragon improves on his lap time. He goes to a 16.4, so he's just 1/10 off of a Racing Bomber. And all of these drivers are going to get one more lap time in this session, since we still have 4 minutes to go. All of the drivers can get themselves back into the pit lane and set another lap time in this session. But you can see 3 drivers who are still in the session have not set a lap time. I think a Salty Bear was actually another driver with a grid penalty, and I think all you can see we've only got 3 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in the session. So obviously all of the drivers have had a lot of time to set lap times in the session, to get out there, set their fast lap time. But yeah, I've just confirmed it there. Both of the Red Bulls also have grid penalties. About my mic there. You can see there, so a lot of people have grid penalties. So that's 7 people all with grid penalties. And Cynex just has not set a lap time. I think he's currently on a lap, although it might look like he's abandoned that. Yeah, it has. So Cynex just out there struggling to set a lap time, as we can see him spin there. I think that's on the exit of turn 11. But yeah, like I was saying, 7 drivers with grid penalties. That's pretty much, well, almost half of the grid. So do you think it's more beneficial to try and take your grid penalties at a place where a lot of other drivers are taking their grid penalties, so that if you get sent to the back of the grid, there's a lot of other quick drivers, and you might even get put a little bit further forward. As you see, Salty Berry is currently P9. If Cynex can get a time on the board, he'll fall down to P10. But he's taking a grid penalty, and he's looking to start inside the top 10. So do you think that's the best strategy?
Yeah, like you said earlier, with grid penalties possibly pushing you up, could do a bit of a Valtteri Bottas where you qualify in 20th, starting 13th due to all the grid penalties. But it's essentially a lot of people taking the grid penalties means that a lot of drivers are doing the same thing. A lot of drivers are taking the alternate strategy, which in a way cancels it out between every other driver, because instead of maybe there being one or two drivers doing the taking the alternate strategy, there's about 5 or 6 or 7 in this case. So you just have to wait to see how it plays out in the race, if they kind of cancel each other out, the amount of drivers taking all their grid penalties.
Yeah, and I think it will, especially because it's a bit annoying for a couple of drivers how it's done, because it's just completely random. The game puts you in a certain order at the start of the qualifying session, and then that's just where you are. And then if people behind you retire and you also retire, you happen to start ahead of them. So you can see Salty Bear just getting lucky with that. One man who hasn't been very lucky is Gazaman, and his championship rival Kong Hofner, currently P5 on a 17.1, a man who has not been very strong in qualifying. He's looking to get a good result here when there's only 9 drivers in this qualifying session, one of which hasn't set a lap time. That would be Cynex. So he's going to obviously try and get the best lap time possible. He's on a 17.1, which means he's 8/10 off of the provisional pole time. So he needs a very, very good lap time if he wants to try and battle it out for that pole position. So you can see Kong Hofner now starting his final lap time of the session. We're going to ride on board this entire lap. You can see coming into turn 1, you want a good middle apex there to try and get a good entry, but also a good exit on your run down into turn 2. You want to keep it nice and tight to this inside line, but don't touch that inside curve, because it can send your car spinning. We're now on the run into turn 4 here. It's very easy to invalidate on entry and on exit. Kong Hofner not improving so far as we come into turn 5. Now the chicane of turn 6 and 7, very easy to unsettle the car here if you take a little bit too much curb, but you need to use that curb on the exit of turn 7 to try and get yourself the best exit possible by using the maximum width of the track. But you can see Kong Hofner has used the max width of the track and a little bit more, because he's just invalidated his lap time. He was 2/10 up on his lap time as well, which probably would have put him around P5, maybe P4, if he could find a little more time in this final sector. But Kong Hofner is not going to be improving on that 17.1. Racing Bomber is currently on a lap time, although it's on worn soft tires, so he's not improving on his time. ERT Thomas currently P3, he's not improving coming out of the middle sector. Can he find improvement in this final sector across the line? It doesn't look like it. It's going to be a 16.7, 5/100ths off of his best time, and it does not look like anyone else on a lap. No, it looks like Speed Quinn currently on a lap, 8/100ths up going out of the middle sector. Can he find any more time coming into the final sector? Sorry, that was 8/100ths up coming out of the first, 8/100ths down coming out of the second. So far it's not a net improvement, but coming through the final turn, can he get that best exit possible? Nice and late apex, get on the power nice and early. You can see using third gear through there, very aggressive with the gearing across the line. It does improve by 1/10.5, which gains Speed Quinn 1 position. They move up from P8 to P7. Gabri, a 17.4, and last place out of all the people who set lap time, whereas her teammate Cyanex did not set a lap time at all. So you can see he's really struggling with keeping the car on track, and also with the track invalidation. So it's not been a good session for Williams, and a track where 7 drivers are taking grid penalties. Cyanex is going to be starting P12. So not the best qualifying session from him. But Racing Bomber on pole position. carrying that good momentum from his win last time out in Imola, and he's got Evil Dragon on PC right behind him, just 1/10 behind. So Racing Bomber and Evil Dragon on the front row. I think Racing Bomber is definitely someone who's up there quite a bit, but Evil Dragon definitely mixes it up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Evil Dragon's definitely put in a really good lap time. Clearly very comfortable with the track. Like we were saying with the grid penalties earlier, it shakes up the grid, so we found more drivers who wouldn't usually be up near the top, up near the front row at the start of a race. The order's been shaken up, so those drivers find themselves at the top, and it's up to them to keep their position as much as they can and see if they can get a good result out of the other drivers taking their penalties.
Yeah, and it's a shame to see Gabri and Sinex. Gabri, I think she scored her first points last time out in Imola, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw her tweeting about that. So, for a driver that we usually see, quite up there, who's been battling with some of the top guys, has only gotten points in one round so far. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. So, it's just interesting to see that you can have great pace like that, but if you can't back it up with consistency, you're not going to get those crucial championship points. So, Gabri starting last out of all the people who said lap time, and Sinex couldn't even get a lap time together. So, really not taking advantage of all these grid penalties. But yeah, like you said, a lot of people who we wouldn't usually see up there are up there this race, and obviously no formation laps. We're starting in 10 seconds, and just before we do, I'd like to mention Gamer Goo. They make a special cream that you can put on your hands to stop yourself from sweating. So if you're getting a sticky controller or wheel, or maybe you're losing grip on your wheel, you can get that sorted out. Check them out. Their link will be in the description. And ending on that note, we are going to start the Hungarian Grand Prix for round 5 of the Season 21 Championship here in One Hub Racing. The lights are out now. Away we go. It's Racing Bomber on pole position, but it's not been a good start. You can see Evil Dragon already taking the lead coming into turn 1. It's almost 4 wide in the background. It is going to be 3 wide, though, between a lot of drivers. You can see ghosting through each other. I think that's a little bit of lag there between the drivers, but Evil Dragon moves himself up into P1. Racing Bomber falling down to P2. Aero Specialist managing to get up into P3. It's not been a good start for ERT Thomas. He's all the way down in P6. It's side by side between the Haas of the Salty Bear and Sinex, and that's a snap of oversteer on the exit of turn 3 from Sinex, and he manages to take out Salty Bear with them, and it looks like Salty Bear has absolutely no front wing, and I'm surprised, I'll be surprised if Sinex has gotten away without wing damage, and looking at his front wing, it looks like he might have. But we now have a virtual safety car, so Sinex and a Salty Bear not having a good start. Gazama moving from P16 to P12, and Gabri moving up a position. You can see Lawrence D with a decent start along with M. Pricey. ERT Thomas, like I mentioned before, not the best start, falling from P3 all the way down to P6. But you can take a look now at the position changes here. Aero Specialist, ESW, Hookie, Kong Hoffner, all taking advantage of ERT Thomas's bad start. And then we have Lawrence D, who's moved up the most positions on this opening lap. He's moved from P14 to P9 in this race. And for a driver who took a grid penalty this race, he's got himself into the points already. But obviously without that formation up, we don't really get to take a look at the tyre strategy, and we still won't, because it looks like Speed Quinn is under pressure from Gazaman, who had a look to the inside, cannot break it late enough to get that move done, and he's under pressure from ERT Jordan behind. So these 3 drivers making a little bit of a train, but you can see there's an even bigger train all the way from P1 to P4. Racing Bombers leading that train with his teammate Aero Specialist following closely behind. We had a couple of drivers come into pit lane, including Evil Dragon, who was P2 at that stage, started on pole position, now down in P11, but he's got one less stop to make compared to all of the other drivers, and hopefully we get a little bit of downtime here so we can actually look at the strategy. So Toma, you can see a lot of drivers starting on softs, with a few drivers starting on mediums, and a couple of drivers under that virtual safety car. They took the opportunity to box for some fresh tires. But as I was speaking about that, sorry, Aero Specialist has just had a spin. Cyanex has had a spin. Down at turn 3, he retires from the session. It's the exact same corner where he collected a salted bear with oversteer on the exit. So he's now out of the session. Aero Specialist made a mistake, thankfully saved by the full course safety car. He falls all the way down from P2 to P8. We're now seeing even more drivers coming to pit lane. Hooky comes in, Kung Hofner, MFC Trunders on the medium compounded tires, Lawrence D, Speed Quinn pulling into the pit lane there. You can see all the drivers who didn't make a stop now making their stop, which is a big disadvantage for anyone who stopped under the virtual safety car, because chances are they are going to come out behind everyone who's just boxed for fresh rubber. You can see Racing Bomber, who made his way to P1 on lap 1, has actually decided to stay out. I don't think that's a good strategy at all from Racing Bomber, because he's now going to be a pit stop down, and usually the soft tires only tend to last around 6 laps around this Hungarian track. But you can see everyone who boxed under the VSC or the safety car, they've gone to medium to hard. That's because they are going to try and go for the medium hard strategy, the one-stop strategy. But also, obviously they made another stop because they had to start on the soft tires to fulfill the 2-stop rule. But I think that's all the action for now, at least, unless someone decides to spin under the safety car. So Toma, I know I've had a quick rundown of the strategy there, but is there anyone who really stands out to you as having a good strategy at this point in time?
Before all of that happening, I probably would have said Evil Dragon, because the virtual safety car allowed him to make a free pit stop. It lasted long enough for him to get a pit stop, which then he was one of the only people to stop under the VSC. That without this safety car that's currently happening, he only had the one stop to make after that, which he would have just gone to hard, gone to the end. Meanwhile, every other driver has to make a second stop. So I would have said Evil Dragon, and I believe he would have been in the best position. But now it's I think everyone's at the same level, apart from Racing Bomber, since he's decided to stay out. So yeah, I think just everyone who pitted under the safety car there has all made the right decision. Point out drivers like Kong Hofner, he's still up in P3 now. He's up in a pretty good position. MSC Trunders as well has also found himself up in P5, and that's also a very nice place for him. I hope he manages to keep it. And yeah, I think that's just about it. Like every driver under the safety car has made a very good decision there.
Yeah, and you can see after 3 laps already, we've had so much action. And we had drivers on top who are now at the back. We've had drivers in the middle moving around. We have had drivers at the back that are now at the front. There's drivers all over the place. You'd think it was a whole race distance, but no, it's just been 3 laps. So we could take a look at where everyone was, where they've been, and where they now are. So you can see the 2 Alpines were leading 1 and 2 before the full course safety car. Aero Specialist in P2 and Racing Bomber in P1. But now Aero Specialist has fallen all the way down to P11 on the same strategy as everyone else. Obviously, some drivers going for different tires. He's gone for those mediums, so he'll be on the hard compound tires at the end of the race. But yeah, and Racing Bomber on soft compound tires in P1. So from going, the Alpines were 1 and 2, and now it looks like they're going to be towards the back of the grid, because Racing Bomber has to make another stop, and Aero Specialist is down in P11. So Evil Dragon, who started on pole position, he'll be looking to retake that race lead. You can see a bit of a brake check there, honestly, from Racing Bomber, really aggressively slowing down to allow the safety car to get back in the pit lane. You can see Evil Dragon getting scared to get close to him, so he's braking quite heavily as well. But we now have Kong Hofner moving up to P3, so it's been a good start from him, and he really needs it, because his championship rival Gazman has already moved all the way up to P9. The safety car restart is now underway. We have Hooky not having a good restart, whereas his teammate having a decent one, and Hooky really not having a good restart. It's a spin out of the final turn, and Hooky now falls all the way down to the back of the grid. So he was in P4 and set for a net podium in the position he was before that spin, and he's now all the way down to P15. Lawrence D finding a way past MFC Trunders, and he's now looking to move into the DRS of the top three. Evil Dragon at 7/10 behind Racing Bomber, so struggling a little bit off the safety car restart to keep up with Racing Bomber. It's hard to pick who to focus on because there's just so much going on. The entire field will be in a DRS train once the DRS is re-enabled, and if we have a quick look at the tyre strategy here, Racing Bomber obviously on the soft compound tyres, they're going to start to feel the wear in a lap or two now, and he's going to have to box soon enough for a set of mediums or hards. So you can see Evil Dragon, even on the mediums, he's keeping up just that bit, but you can see the softs, they still have that little bit of life left in them, and they're slightly outpacing the mediums, whereas Colin Hoffner is able to stay within Dragon. Lawrence D having a spin in the final sector. He's fallen all the way down to P with Alls and ESW. Hooky Racing Bob with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on those soft compound of tyres. He's obviously the fastest driver in the field so far, but you can see that's a move coming into turn 1 between MFC Trunders and ERT Thomas. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. I'm not too sure who that's for. That's Racing Bomber, who's gone all 1 to P7. There's so much to keep up with here. So we now have Evil Dragon leading this race. He's got Kong Hoffner on his tail. MFC Trunders 3.3 seconds behind. He's holding up ERT Thomas. He's up our compound tires, so you can see why they're not keeping pace with the feel it later on in the race when they have to go to hard compound tires. Aero Specialist finding a way past M. Pricey, who's not having the best of races so far. A driver who's won a race in this P3 tier, now down in P12, and pretty much on the same strategy as everyone else, in the fact that he still has to make having a few issues with it, but yeah, we now have drivers all over the place. You can see there's been a bit of a big train here between all the drivers on hard compound tires, and with Racing Bomber obviously now in there, and he's using all of his ERS to find a way past Gazaman. We definitely know he's a driver that likes to use all of his ERS. Lawrence has a spin down in P15. Gazaman gets overtaken by Racing Bomber there, as Racing Bomber absolutely sends the ERS. He's on 6-lap-old soft compound tyres now, so they're really going to get to that drop-off point quite soon now, and he's really going to feel that tyre wear, and he might even struggle to keep up within the DRS of the hard runners ahead of him. We also see a Salty Bear is on the soft compound tyres, so he's one of the drivers under the safety car who decided to box for those soft compound tyres. You can only assume that he will be going to hards until the end of the race. That's another spin there. That's MFC Trunders on the exit of turn 7. He's spun his car around. He's now fallen down to P13, about to be overtaken by M. Pricey. He's now down in P14 along with Lawrence, who had another spin at the final turn. You can see Racing Bomber once again using all of his ERS. He moves himself past Gabri and up into P4 in this race. So he's trying to recover himself, but he has an extra stop to make. So right now he's probably in a net last because of his strategy, but obviously safety cars can shake that all up. But yeah, right now we have Evil Dragon and Kong Hoffner in P1 and 2, but they're both on the medium compounded tires, whereas most drivers behind them, apart from people like Aero Specialist, who's going down the inside of ERT Jordan coming into turn 1. He gets that move done and he moves himself up into P9. That's another yellow flag. Lawrence D, the third spin in a row, and the second at the same turn. He's now well off the back of the closest driver ahead of him, which is MFC Trunders. That's a 12-second gap. But yeah, there's a lot of spins going on, a lot of overtaking, and looking at this grid right now, after the full course safety car restart, is there anyone who you think has done particularly well?
I would say Gazman's done really well to bring himself back up after his grid penalty. Evil Dragon's done really well to keep his lead, and Kong Hoffner has done really well to maintain his position and keep himself in contention for the race win. I would have said that MFC Trundles and Lawrence were doing really well for themselves before their spins, unfortunately. But I would go with Evil Dragon. Looks to be a good name for a win at the moment. Seems to be the favourite for me.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there, but we definitely cannot write off Kong Hoffner. We know that he's very strong in the races. Gazaman, who's currently on a bit of a recovery drive after having to take his engine grip penalty at this Grand Prix, gets past Gabri, as Gabri gets double overtaken as Salty Bear, moving himself up into P6, but he's on the soft compound tyres, so he'll be looking to stop for those hard compound tyres quite soon. But you saw there's quite a funny overtake between Speed Quinn and the Salty Bear. I think it was some major lag, and you saw Speed Quinn's car literally on top of a Salty Bear's car, so you can see the connection in the specific server not the best. Hopefully that doesn't affect the racing too much. Thankfully both drivers got away with that, although because I'm not sure what actually happened, but obviously what happened on our screens isn't what actually happened in the race. But Speed Quinn in P8, he just got himself a 3-second time penalty. Lawrence D having a spin coming out of turn 3. That brings out yet another safety car. All these drivers behind, who is it? It's Kong Hoffner and Evil Dragon, who do not have time to respond because they were just too far ahead. So they're going to lose quite a bit of track position because of this. Gazaman actually stakes out because he is on the hard compound tyre, so he can't really come in for medium, stretch them to the end of the race. Aero Specialist surprisingly staying out. Surprisingly staying out there, even though he's on mediums. He definitely could have gone to hards until the end of the race. And Pricey doing something similar. So definitely a big surprise from Aero Specialist, and then Pricey not boxing under that safety car. I think that's going to cost them a lot of time and track position. But you can see a lot of people taking this opportunity. Although Racing Bomber, who was on the softs, he's gone to medium compound tyres, and that is because he has to make one more stop in this race now. So that was because he didn't box under the first full course safety car. Otherwise, I think he would definitely be in a very, very good position. ERT Thomas went to the medium compound tyres, so he's not in the best position either. He has to make another stop in this race, as mediums definitely cannot go at 25 laps. We have a Salty Bear who started on the hards, went to softs, he's back on those hard compound tyres. I think they'll be able to make it to the end of the race. Hooky in a good position as well. He'll be able to make it to the end of the race. It'll be interesting to see, do the top two opt to come in and lose all of their track position to get that free pit stop under the safety car. What do you think, Toma?
I think at this point, all the grid has been kind of packed up at this point. It's definitely a coin flip whether it'll be worth it or not. Because on one hand they get their stop, or the second hand they don't. On the other hand they don't. But on the other hand, all the other cars will overtake them, and they have to fight from the back pretty much. So I think they've made the right decision in not pitting at the moment. Then just keep on their mediums and use the advantage that the mediums have over the hards to get some pace, try and make a gap away from Gaza, and then when they need to pit for the hards later on, they'll be fine. So I think they've made the right decision in staying out.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting way to look at it. And like you said, it really backs them up that a lot of drivers behind them went to those hard compound tyres under the safety car. So, they can't go to another set of hards until the end of the race because they don't have another set of hards. I think the people on hards definitely right with them. They had to stay out. And then Kong Hoffner and Evil Dragon doing the same, being on a bit of a similar strategy with them. They still have another stop to make in this race. And with safety cars, they can all mix and match it, change it up. You can see, like I mentioned before, quite a bit of lag in this server. Hopefully it doesn't affect the racing too much, like I've said before. But Kong Hoffner and Evil Dragon, so they still have a stop to make, like most of the drivers behind them. And The only problem with them is that they'll be on the hard compound tires towards the end of the race, whereas all the hard runners will be on the mediums towards the end. And I think we're getting quite close to that range now where the hard compound tires are actually going to be faster than the medium compounded tires. So it'll be interesting to see when that phase actually comes in. I think it should be around lap 12, or not lap 12, sorry, once the mediums are 12 laps old. So yeah, once those hard tires are faster, it only gets better than from there, because they have the faster tires, and they also get to box for even faster tires. So the hard position runners definitely in a very good spot. You can see Aero Specialist, like I said before, I thought he definitely should have boxed, and that's exactly what he's doing now. He's coming into the pit lane for a fresh set of hard compound tires. So he gets this free stop, he loses all of his track position, he might end up being stuck behind those slower drivers, get in that traffic and lose time. So it's definitely a risky strategy, but if he can make it work, if he can get ahead of the drivers ahead of him who are losing him time, he could be on for a good result. You can see M. Pricey under safety car conditions has just spun his Haas car, and that is really not what he needed in this race, especially due to the fact that he stayed out on his medium compound tires. We still has a stop to make in this race, and he's now all the way down in P10. So yeah, a bit of a rookie error there from M. Pricey, and it's definitely going to do nothing but hurt him in this race. But the safety car is now coming in this lap, as all drivers have caught up to the safety car. We have Evil Dragon in P1 on quite old medium compound tires, with ERS Kong Hofner right behind them on the very same strategy, with Gazaman on the hard compound tires, a very good position in this race, with Gabri in P4 also on quite old hard compound tires. But I think those hards, like I said before, are going to be that slight bit faster than the mediums coming up on the stage. And just before we get back under racing way, I'd like to mention one of Hub Racing sponsors. That's Pure Sim Gear, and they sponsor the league by giving prizes of a free pair of racing gloves to the drivers, to the driver with the most pole positions and fastest lap combined. So if you want to get yourself a pair of racing gloves, be sure to check them out. Link in the description. And it definitely gives you a bit more of an immersive experience, especially when you're using your racing wheel. But you can see Evil Dragon getting ready for this safety car restart now, coming out of the final turn. The time is now, and it does not look like a good restart up against Kong Hofner, who's very close to the back of him off of that final turn. He's even looking for a move. He ducks out of the slipstream at the final second to send it around the outside into turn 1. You can see Kong Hofner even going off a track there, as Evil Dragon was trying to brake as late as possible. Kong Hofner with the inside line for turn 3 understeers into Evil Dragon after braking that little bit too late, and then concedes the position, as I assume he thought it was only fair. So Kong Hofner maintaining P2 for now. We have MFC Trunders with a spin, along with ESW Hooky with a spin coming. We have MSV Trunders with a spin coming out of turn 2, and Hooky had a spin out of turn 3. We have now Racing Bomber getting past ERT Jordan on his fresher, softer, medium compound tires. We have a Salty Bear and M. Pricey battling it out. M. Pricey trying to find a way past, but he's on very old medium compound tires. So I think a Salty Bear definitely has the advantage tire-wise. You can see already Speed Quinn, the only man with a 3-second time penalty, which is definitely surprising to see, but a lot of laps have been under safety car conditions. Currently outside of that 1 second gap to the top 4, with Gabri, who is actually within that top 4. So, Gabri, who didn't have the best qualifying, possibly on for a good result here. You can see M. Pricey quite soon after the safety car has come in for a fresh set of tires. This Racing Bomber sends it down the inside of Speed Quinn. Speed Quinn goes for the switchback using the ERS. Can he put it around the outside coming into turn 3? You can see Racing Bomber leaving the space, and Speed Quinn is just backing out of that move. So, and M. Pricey now actually goes to the soft compounded tires. So, in my opinion, I think it's a bit of a strategy blunder. to stay out under safety car conditions, go to the softs, which definitely cannot make it to the end, unless, of course, Pricey is banking on a safety car. And, you know, if it works out for him, it could definitely do him some good. But off of that safety car restart, we've obviously had MFC Trunders pull into the pit lane and retire from the session because he was just struggling so hard with the consistency. And you can see Racing Bomber, after overtaking Speed Quinn, has gotten straight into the DRS at top 4, and I think that's because he has the fresher medium compounded tyres. We now have Salty Bear looking to the inside of ERT Jordan, turns to the outside line for this turn 13, but he gets the move done before the braking zone. Sorry, there's just so much action going on, as we've seen all race, plenty of drivers overtaking, and it's only going to increase now that the safety car is deployed. But we still have Evil Dragon and Kong Hoffner in P1 and 2, and Gazaman finding his way all the way to P3. So off that safety car restart, who do you think has had the best restart and got themselves into a good position?
Yeah, Gazaman's done extremely well to find himself up in P3. Made the right decision under safety cars. Luckily kept his car on the track and has not really put a foot wrong so far. So he is definitely within a shout of finding himself on that top step at the end of the race.
That's definitely so, but you can see maybe the hards aren't at that stage just yet where they're faster than the mediums, because Gazman struggling to stay within the DRS of the top 2, and he desperately needs that DRS. It's going to cost him quite a bit of time on the pit straight and the straight directly after it, as there's only one detection point, and that's for the first straight and the second straight on the run down into turn 2. So, or turn 3 as I should say, because I keep forgetting that little hint of a turn after turn 1 is actually recognized as turn 2. But you can see Gazaman at the very last second gets within that 9/10 along with Gabri doing the exact same. At least I think so, yes. Gazaman has DRS and so does Gabri, so that's very crucial there for Gazaman. And you can see now Kong Hoffner looks to the inside of Evil Dragon coming into turn 1, leaves him the space on the outside. It's a very clean racing there between the two, but Kong Hoffner has the DRS on the run into turn 3, and he defends the inside line. Evil Dragon trying to pull it off around the outside, and he actually gets it done because he has the inside line for turn 4. So that's a great move and a great defense from Evil Dragon to maintain P1 in this race. But all this battling is just helping out Gazaman, who's able to stay within that DRS because of this Racing Bomber overtaking Gabri, and that's because she spun on the exit of turn 7, I think that is. So Gabri losing a lot of time because of that. We've had another spin. That's Kong Hoffner, who is battling for P1 in this race, falling all the way down to P8. That's P9 now, and that might be wing damage for Alls because he unghosted at just the wrong time as Alls was trying to overtake him. So I think that was a bit of a game fault there. But yeah, Kong Hoffner was in that battle for the race win, a driver who we've known to be very consistent and strong in the races. And he's obviously in that battle for the championship. This race is not going to do him any good. You can see Gazman, though, surprisingly was able to stay within the DRS of Evil Dragon, even though there would have been a bigger gap after Kong Hoffner having that spin. And Racing Bomber is now all over the back of Gazman, but you can see Racing Bomber just does not have that much ERS left, so I think he's going to be a lot weaker in the overtaking, although he does have 7-lap fresher tyres and also softer tyres. You can see the grip that he has off of the exit up at turn 4. He looks to the outside for turn 5. There's no chance this can go right, and you can see he has to back out of that move as we saw contact, but I don't think there actually was any between the two drivers. And knowing Racing Bomber, he's just going to absolutely send it at every opportunity, which is really going to hurt Gazaman's race because he needs to stay within that DRS of Evil Dragon to continue the battle for this race win. That's a spin for ESW Hooky, who falls all the way down to P12. Gabri came into the pit lane for a set of medium compound tyres. Racing Bomber currently P3, putting a lot of pressure on Gazaman, and we're about to come to the first DRS zone of lap 18. So let's see if he can get the move done coming into here. You can see just the grip that he has going into that final turn 14 over Gazaman. So you can see with the power of the DRS, you can see Gazaman using a little bit of his ERS because he does not want to battle with Racing Bomber. He wants to stay ahead so that he's not losing time. You can see that's big wheel spin for Gazaman, and he's lost a lot of time there, falling all the way down to P5, and he's now going to be under pressure from the Alpine of Aero Specialists behind. So Kong Hoffner, Gazaman, both having spins, although Gazaman's not as severe. Kong Hoffner now just 3 seconds away from Gazaman after that, and we now have Evil Dragon in a prime position to take this race win. These two main competitors who were looking to battle with him for this race win have now lost a lot of time to Evil Dragon. You can see that was a little bit of oversteer actually for Evil Dragon as he rode that curb, which unsettled the car just that slight bit. So you can see consistency, like we said in the qualifying, consistency is going to be key around here. We now have Racing Bomber who's looking for a move on Evil Dragon, and technically Racing Bomber still has as many stops as Evil Dragon does in this race. So it could be Racing Bomber, ERT Thomas, and Evil Dragon all battling for the race win, with a Salty Bear trying to get involved now. And there's just so much going on here. But looking at what's gone on so far between these four drivers, do you think one of these four in the top four could be on for the race win, or do you think Gazaman or Kong Hoffner, or maybe even someone else in the grid? Because at this point it wouldn't be unprecedented. But just before you answer, it looks like Racing Bomber has now had a spin. So a driver who we thought might be battling for the race win, you can see in just a lap's time, in 3 laps time I should say, we've had over 4 spins if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of spins going on around this track, but surprisingly not many 3-second time penalties. And I'm just going to hand it off to you, Doma, because this action is too much for me to keep up with.
Yeah, like I said, we've had so many spins in the past few. It's a lot of drivers are maybe touching too much of a curb, unsettling the car way too much, and putting the throttle on just that little bit too early, and it sends the car on, they lose control. Unfortunately, that is how it's been a huge shame for a lot of drivers like Kong Hoffner, who found himself down at P8. Gazaman has managed to pull himself back up after his moment. Luckily, it wasn't so bad. He can just get back within the DRS of ERT Thomas. He can be right back up in that fight. Again, also he'll be on the medium compound when people make their pit stops, so he will have an advantage over ERT Thomas and Evil Dragon. Evil Dragon has been given a bit of a lifeline with the spins. Salty Bear is bearing down on him at the moment, so Evil Dragon has to just be careful of that, not make any mistakes, make sure he keeps his car on track and keeps his pace at a consistent level so that he keeps his lead, and if he does lose the lead, he keeps within contention. And I think this race will all open up by the time people make their pit stops, and we'll find out who's better on which tyres going into the last third of the race coming in.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely impossible to predict who's going to win this race, or who even's going to finish in the top 5, because there's strategies all over the place. There's so many different tyre compounds, different drivers, different strategies, different ERS usage, different track limits, warnings, different spins. Drivers could be anywhere at the end of this race, and we're going to find out what happens in these final 15 laps. But you can see a Salty Bear looks to the inside of Evil Dragon. Evil Dragon leaves the space, but a Salty Bear backing out of the move coming into turn 13 because he knows that the outside line is not going to work going into there. Evil Dragon, though, comes into the pit lane now. He's going to come in. What I can only assume is going to be some fresh, hard compound tyres, although he's really stretched those medium compound tyres, maybe waiting for a safety car while he was on those mediums. But Aero Specialist dived down the inside at this very turn on Gazaman on the last lap, and it lost him a lot of time, and it almost lost him 2 positions. Thankfully, he only lost 1 to his teammate Racing Bomber, and that's a big lockup going into turn 3 there. Thankfully for him, ERT Jordan can't take advantage because he's sadly outside of the DRS now. But yeah, I think this race is absolutely all over the place. It could be absolutely anyone's game, but you can see we still have quite a lot of battling going on nonetheless. But I think what we should definitely focus on when strategies are like this, they're all over the shop. I think a good thing to focus on is who is able to make it to the end of the race. You can see a Salty Bear, he's on 13 lap old hard compound tyres. if he were to stretch his tyres until the end of the race, they'd almost be 30 laps old. So I'm not sure if it's possible for him. We could definitely see him stretching those hards, but chances are he might be coming in for a final stop onto medium compound tyres. ERT Thomas definitely cannot take those mediums to the end. He'll be stopping another time in this race. Gazaman has got a stop to go. Racing Bomber has definitely got a stop to go. Aero Specialist could be one to watch. He might be able to stretch those tyres until the end of the race, as I think they'll only be around 25 laps old. But Racing Bomber now looks to the inside of Gazaman. He tries to go over the switchback, doesn't make it work out, as Racing Bomber gets DRS on the exit of turn 1 and 2, and into turn 3 he's able to maintain P3. So yeah, if we continue on with the strategies here, Aero Specialist, I think he could definitely make it to the end on those hard compound tyres. So right now we have a Salty Bear and Aero Specialist maybe going to the end on those hards. ERT Jordan has a stop to make, and as we ride on board with him, he actually gets himself a 3-second time penalty, so that could cost him a few positions at the end of the race. Alls still has a stop to go in this race. Evil Dragon down in P8 has no more stops to go in this race. We could see he's pretty much a pit stop down on a Salty Bear and Aero Specialist. This could be a very, very mixed podium, and this is only if there aren't any more safety cars. M. Pricey, obviously, on the soft compound tire, still has a stop to go. Kong Hoffner has just made his final stop of the race, and he'll be stretching those tires to the end, although he's 9 seconds off of Evil Dragon, the man he was battling for the race win earlier on. ESW Hooky has a stop to make. Gabri maybe can stretch those mediums until the end, although I think it's unlikely. And then Speed Quinn, who's quite a while back, almost a lap down along with Gabri, does have no more stops to go. So you can see Aero Specialist now making his way past Gazaman. So Gazaman on 20 lap old mediums, they're really starting to fall off a cliff now. You can see he's just been overtaken by both of the Alpines. And in fact, Racing Bomber has actually broken DRS to Aero Specialist behind and Gazman. So yeah, I think Gazman is definitely going to have to consider boxing soon. And ERT Jordan is on the same boat, because they're both on 20 lap old medium compound tyres. And Pricey goes to another set of soft compound tyres. Not sure what that's about. Maybe he just thinks because he's not in the best position that he should try to go for a bit of a riskier strategy. Maybe wait for a safety car. You can see he comes out just ahead of ESW Hooky, going side by side into turn 1. Racing Bomber now within the DRS of the top 2, and on very similar tyres to ERT Thomas ahead of him. And ERT Thomas actually struggling to stay within the DRS of a Salty Bear. But now that I've obviously given that quick little rundown of all of the tyre strategies of all the drivers who could possibly make it to the end, who do you think could possibly be within a shout of a podium? I know it said it was completely unpredictable before, but if you had to give someone, like possibly Salty Bear going for the race win and maybe battling it out with Aero Specialist.
I would think them two were the favourites at the moment. Salty Bear he will be on very worn tyres, but I think his best option is to try and get those to the end, try and conserve those as much as he can. He is keeping his pace up at the moment, keeping out of DRS of ERT Thomas, so he is safe for the time being. Of course, Racing Bomber still needs to make his pit, so that's one less person to worry about for the top 3 there. But yeah, I can also see Aero Specialist be on the slightly faster, slightly less worn tyres, so you have a bit of more of an advantage over a driver like Salty Bear. But I would quite like Salty Bear to keep in position, because it would be a mega stint, and it would just prove how good he's been at conserving his tyres. I think it would just be a deserved win if he were to pull it off.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there about if he can conserve those tyres, it would definitely be a deserved win. But we can see with Gazaman how much time he's lost to people on fresher tyres, and he's on 21 lap old tyres, and a Salty Bear's hards will be in those range in about 5 laps, so he's going to have to do around 8-ish laps on those very old hard compound tyres. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get to the end. Aero Specialist could definitely make it to the end. You can see Gazaman, ERT Thomas, they both stretched their hards to 22 laps. They don't have great pace, but Aero Specialist is going to be a pit stop up on a lot of people. He's 4 lap fresher tyres than a Salty Bear, and if ERT Thomas and Racing Bomber start to go side by side with Salty Bear, Aero Specialist could be in a prime position to win this race. And then obviously the person in third place a net P3 based off of all the people who've yet to make a stop is Evil Dragon down in P8. But we could take a look here. He's 19 seconds off of the race lead, and Aero Specialist is only 2.5. So I think unless we have another safety car in this race, it could be difficult for Evil Dragon and Kong Hoffner to get into the battle for that race win, which is quite unfortunate for them because they've had the pace in qualifying, especially Evil Dragon. He's had that consistency in the race as well, and it's just a shame to see that he might not be able to get this race win. But to be fair to Aero Specialist and the Salty Berry, they've had a great strategy to get themselves into the position that they're in. To be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure how they've done it, how they've gotten themselves a pit stop up on Evil Dragon, but obviously they timed their strategies perfectly, and they're now going to be the main two favourites for this race win. And with Aero Specialist almost within DRS of the top three, we can see that's a spin for a Salty Bear. The man in prime position to win this Hungarian Grand Prix is now all the way down in P6, and you can see Evil Dragon only 11 seconds behind. So a Salty Bear has thrown away any chances of a race win, but the chances and the hope of a podium is still on if our predictor strategy is correct. So he could still get a podium in this race, but the chances of a race win are gone. He's about 8 seconds behind Aero Specialist. So Aero Specialist looking like it could be an uncontested win. So he just needs to get within the DRS of the top two, conserve his tyres, and make sure above all that he does not spin the car. That is going to be the most important thing for him, because a lot of drivers around him have spun their cars, and it's lost him all this time. A Salty Bear just there pretty much losing the race win because of that. And in fact, he actually comes into pit lane. He doesn't think these hards can make it to the end, so he comes into pit lane for some fresh tyres. Interestingly enough, Gazaman on 24 lap old hard compound tyres. You think he's stretching until a medium stint, or possibly trying to go softs until the end of the race?
I definitely think at this point it's soft. Because he's only got 8 more laps to go, and if he holds out for another lap or two, the softs will be ideal for that short stint. It's just, I just don't know how much he'll be able to gather off that. It might be able to snag fastest lap and then get a decent point score, but I'm not too sure on a podium finish or a win even. We'll just have to wait and see how that happens. Maybe a safety car comes out in the next couple laps. We don't know at this point.
Yeah, and it definitely could be likely with the amount of safety cars we've seen. But the Salty Bear, as he was coming out of the pit lane, actually made contact with Kong Hoffner, which definitely lost them both a little bit of time there. And a Salty Bear also having that wheel spin out of turn 1, so he's 5 seconds behind Kong Hoffner, so not in the greatest of positions in this race. But maybe these soft tyres can do him some good. Racing Bomber opting to come into the pit lane for a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Gazaman, ERT Jordan following him in on the same strategy. Gazaman, a rookie error. It's a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Any chances of a top 5 might be thrown out of the window because of that, because he's going to lose positions to all of the drivers behind him, unless obviously they lose a massive amount of time. So Gazaman has really put himself in quite a bad position because of that now. And ERT Jordan just needs to make sure he's within 5 seconds of Gazaman. And Racing Bomber also has a 3-second time penalty. And he's also had a spin coming out of the pit lane and coming out of turn 1. So he is now behind Gazaman. ERT Jordan also has a penalty. So these 3 drivers that came into pit lane all have penalties. This puts Kong Hoffner in a great position, because as long as he can stay within 5 seconds of Gazaman and 3 seconds of Bomber and Jordan, he could be on for a very, very good result here. So, yeah, big mistake there from Racing Bomber. He did a bit of the same thing of what a Salty Bear was, or did, I should say. Just had those cold tires coming out of the pit lane and spun the rears coming out of turn 1. So he's not in the best of positions now. He's lost position to Gazman, but purely on penalty difference, so long as he stays within 2 seconds of Gazaman, he'll still be gaining that net position. ERT Thomas, though, 19 lap old tyres. Has he got a puncture? Because he's just had 2 spins in a row, and you can see how much time he's lost. All's now overtaking him. I don't think he has a puncture, but he's now got Evil Dragon right behind him. So ERT Thomas, that pit stop advantage that he had over Evil Dragon and Gazman, he's now lost. Gazman comes into the pit lane to serve that 5-second time penalty, but is it going to be worth it, because he's just going to lose so much time and track position. A Salty Bear sending the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on those fresh soft compound tyres. Can that be beaten by ERT Jordan with the power of the DRS, or Racing Bomber with the clean air, both on fresh soft compound tyres? Aero Specialist is now in P1 and around 15 seconds ahead of his closest competitor, who is Evil Dragon. We could see Aero Specialist absolutely running away with this Grand Prix win, and what a performance it could be. Just needs to keep it consistent now. Alls, ERT Thomas, both a stop to make in this race. I think we'll see ERT Thomas coming into the pit lane right about now after that spin. He lost his pit stop advantage to the drivers behind, so he's going to be in quite a bad position. Alls also needs to come into the pit lane for some fresh soft compound tyres. They're leaving it very late. They're only going to get about 6 laps of racing on their new fresh soft compound tyres. So Evil Dragon in P4, 15 seconds behind Aero Specialist, I should say. What do you think of his strategy today? How do you think he actually got into the position that he is to be a pit stop ahead of the man who was looking good for this race win?
I'm not entirely sure. It must have been the safety cars and just all throwing everything out of the loop. Some people didn't pit, and some people would have pit, and maybe the people that didn't pit, it was the wrong decision, and that's how people have managed to get a pit stop up, because the safety cars just reset any mistakes that were made before that time. So I think that's how some drivers have managed to find themselves ahead, even though they've had more pit stops.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, with those safety cars, it really mixed up the race, and this is living proof of that. Aero Specialist in P1, 15 seconds ahead of Evil Dragon. It's just been a great performance from him. I don't think we've actually seen him spin this race, so that's quite a crucial thing from him. Evil Dragon, another driver who hasn't spun this race. And now, the more that I think about it, we have 5, once Aero Specialist comes across the line, it will be 5 more laps of racing to go. Alls and ERT Thomas have not come into the pit lane, and that can only mean one thing. They're going to try and stretch those medium compound tyres for 25 laps. That is going to be a very big ask from this medium rubber, but we'll have to see if they can do it. They're definitely going to lose the position to Evil Dragon. He's going to have a massive tyre advantage. But Racing Bomber out of the final turn. He's retired from the session. It's been major wheel spin, and the safety car comes out. Aero Specialist was looking so good for the race win, and after this safety car, he's still going to be in a good position. He can box for the soft compound tyres and have that still have that track position, because he's got a pit stop advantage over Alls behind him. So he's going to have the soft compound tyres, but it just makes his life that little bit harder. And do you think after this safety car, do you think Aero Specialist might have a bit of a harder time for this race win?
Definitely not, because now that 18-second gap that he's currently got is going to be completely deleted. So he's going to have to fight for that win now, and he has got a penalty. So essentially, if he doesn't get that 3 gap, he'll only have about 2 or 3 laps to try and get that penalty back, to try and gain that 3 seconds back, which I just don't think might be possible, especially considering he's not staying out now. He is staying out, so he's staying on his 1 hard tyres, so it's going to be incredibly difficult. Alls might actually turn up a surprise winner here if he doesn't pit. I would also give a good shout to Evil Dragon. He could also find himself on top step if he gets past ERT Thomas, and ERT Thomas himself could also find himself in that P1. But unfortunately for Aero Specialist, I think his win has just been thrown away by a mistake further down the grid.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. That wasn't actually a full course safety car. It was completely my fault there. That was a VSC, and that's exactly why no one came into the pit lane, because Aero Specialist is still on for this race win. Thankfully, in his case, not a full course safety car.
Yes, thankfully for him, yeah, I think we just got our wires crossed on that one, but yeah, that's it. Aero Specialist has his win on now. He can just keep it safe. It's now a battle for P2 between Evil Dragon and ERT Thomas. Ols can also be up there if he turns on a bit of pace and manages to get past the two. But Evil Dragon is looking the favourite at the moment.
Yeah, definitely very lucky there. That wasn't a full course safety car. Sorry about that. That was my fault. I didn't see that. It was actually a virtual safety car. But yeah, Aero Specialist still on for that win, even with that 3-second time penalty. So it's Evil Dragon on the back of ERT Thomas. He's got 12 lap fresher tyres, and the hards are much faster than the mediums. And ERT Thomas and Alls will be very lucky if they actually don't get a puncture at the end of this race. And with ERT Jordan just 3.2 seconds behind Alls, we could see Alls losing another position. We could see Evil Dragon going down the inside of ERT Thomas into turn 1. I guess that move done quite easily because that grip advantage is just too big for ERT Thomas to defend against. So it's just ERT Thomas versus Alls, and Alls does not have the DRS of ERT Thomas. So it's going to be an interesting podium in this Hungarian Grand Prix. You can see Gazman, it's disappointing from him. He made that extra stop purely because of his 5-second time penalty. So he came into pit lane and he is now down in P7 at 16.6 seconds off of a Salty Bear. Racing Bomber was actually the one who caused that virtual safety car. It was a crash from him, and he's now out of this race after possibly being on for a top 5 in this race, if I'm not mistaken. He was ahead of ERT Jordan, and if he overtook Alls and got that 3-second gap out, which is now what ERT Jordan is looking to do, he could have got even higher. So yeah, shame from Racing Bomber, but we know he's a driver that definitely likes to push quite a bit, and sadly did not work out for him. Aero Specialist now entering the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix as he arrives on the back of the lap car of Speed Quinn, who's definitely not had a good race, along with Gabri also not having a good race. Been lapped by the Haas car of Salty Bear in P6. So yeah, not been the best race for Gabri, but gonna cruise on and just finish this race off and not come into the pit lane and retire, which is definitely something I respect there. But yeah, ERT Thomas, he's now well and truly lost the DRS of Evil Dragon, which is fair enough, because those mediums are definitely close to a puncture now. We have ERT Jordan with somewhat fresh soft compound tires. You can see he just wants to get on the power because he has so much more grip than Alls, and Alls is never going to defend from that. But for these next for this next lap and a half, if you can stay within that 3-second gap of ERT Jordan, he could get P4 in this race, and a Salty Bear getting himself a 3-second time penalty is also going to help out Alls. That's a retirement from M. Pricey, a spin on the exit of turn 4. We've seen it many times before. That's how Cyanex retired, and also how a Salty Bear got collected on lap 1. Speaking of a Salty Bear, it's a spin coming out of turn 12. He's now lost a lot of time, and his chances of P5 in this race are no more. So he's going to finish most likely down in P6. We have Alls who's trying to hang within that 3-second gap of ERT Jordan ahead of him, but it does not look like he'll be able to do it. He has to maintain a 1-second gap for the next for this final lap of the race, and I just don't think he has the grip in those tires. ERT Jordan now arriving on the back of his teammate ERT Thomas. ERT Thomas in a bit of a similar situation to Alls, but the fact that Jordan has that 3-second time penalty, I don't think he'll be able to stretch a gap once he actually overtakes ERT Thomas, and that's if he does, because he spins the car on the exit of turn 5. The consistency for a lot of the drivers has been absolutely horrible, and it's really cost them in this race. So drivers like Evil Dragon and Aero Specialists who have kept it consistent all race are going to be rewarded. And as Aero Specialist comes through the final turn of this Hungarian circuit, he's going to come across the line to win the Hungarian Grand Prix and round 5 of this P3 tier Season 21 Championship in one-up racing. Evil Dragon now coming through the final turn 15 seconds later to claim P2 in this race. ERT Thomas stretching his mediums for 26 laps. It comes across the line to finish the podium positions. Alls after that spin from ERT Jordan, he's able to take P4. That's a great result from the Red Bull drivers. Salty Bear coming home in P5. ERT Jordan managing P6. Gazaman, not been a good race from him. He finishes all the way down in P7 after what could have been a potential P4, possibly even podium if he didn't get that 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Hooky on 25 lap old hard tyres on a bit of a similar strategy for Aero Specialist, but obviously didn't work out as well as it did for our race winner. And Kong Hoffner actually on the very line, I missed that, on the line, Kong Hoffner just overtakes Hooky as they cross the finish line. So Kong Hoffner snatching that P8 by 9/1000ths of a second, and he just had the superior grip on the soft compound tyres there. Speed Quinn spinning out of the final turn, getting it back on track though to finish the race in P10 and getting himself 1 point. So wow, what a race that's been. And well, what do you think of that podium? Is there anyone you think could have possibly been on there and maybe just didn't perform as well as you thought?
I would have thought until this spin, Kong Hoffner would have put himself up there, which is a huge shame for him. He's championship leader. He's probably lost a lot of that lead he would have had now, and the title fight is completely opened up now. So hopefully he's able to bounce himself back next week and get back onto that old form, which got him into that top spot. So yeah, I'd say it was a huge shame for Kong Hoffner, and it's a shame he's not on the podium this week.
Yeah, definitely a shame. And even with his rival Gazaman finishing all the way down in P7, he still wasn't able to gain points. So Aero Specialist getting his first win here in the P3 tier with Evil Dragon. His first race on his PC, testing out the cross-platform. He manages to get P2. Maybe he suits a bit better on his PC, I'm not sure. But he's put in a good performance nonetheless. And then ERT Thomas, the Mercedes driver who's never been on the podium before, gets himself into those podium positions. So it's a great race from him. Alls, someone who we usually don't see in the top 10, has managed to get P4 in this race. A great race from him. A Salty Bear gets the fast lap of the Grand Prix and finishes P5 for Haas. ERT Jordan sadly falling down to P6 with Gazaman not having a good race. He's P7 with his championship rival Kong Hoffner right behind him in P8. It's ESW Hooky in P9. Speed Quinn finishes off the top 10. Almost a lap down, but thankfully keeping it on the lead lap. But if you had to give a driver of the
I think I would have to go with Aero Specialists myself. Just an outstanding race from him. Found himself up in that top spot, seemingly out of nowhere. So I think my question for him would be: at what point during the race did you realise that you were in that top spot and the win was definitely on for you? And what did you do to secure that win?
Yeah, and obviously a great race from Aero Specialist, and what a way to get his first race win in the P3 tier, although it was a bit of a scare when that virtual safety car came out. Thankfully it wasn't a full course safety car, and that is what got him his race win. But if I had to give a driver of the day to one of these drivers, it would have to be Evil Dragon. The level of pace and consistency from him. He didn't have a single spin, he didn't have a single 3-second time penalty, and he qualified. So, yeah, what a race from him. And I'd have to ask him, coming into this race, obviously he was on his, you were on your PC. Do you think you were still going to have the pace after what we've seen, the difference in pace between PC and PS? But that is going to be it for this Hungarian Grand Prix.
Should we mention our partners? I think you got to mention some partners left.
We definitely should.
Yes. I'll get started off with a team I'm part of, ERT. They sponsor all the league trophies for the prize winners, the top 3 in each tier, and also Constructors' Championships. They also award the ERT Going Gets Tough award, which is awarded to the drivers that turn up every race, answer all the media, and answer all the media questions, and just show up every race and prove that, and even when they have bad races, stick it through till the end.
And another one of OneHub Racing's partners is SimGrid, which is the website where you can get yourself signed up for OneHub Racing. I think there's even some free spots in this very P3 tier, so you can join in on all this action, along with finding plenty of more Formula One leagues and ASSETTO CORSA Competizione leagues, all on the SimGrid website.
And just to finish off, we have Vespertine that do all the merch for OneHub. Do hoodies, t-shirts, caps. I believe water bottles are available, shorts, all that kind of stuff. I have some of it myself. It is very comfortable. I would highly recommend it. So I assume there will definitely be links down in the description, and I would highly recommend checking them out.
But that is going to be all of OneHub Racing's partners. So I hope you go check them out in the links in the description. But I hope you enjoyed this round 5 of the season 21 championship here in the P3 tier. What a round it was. Plenty of action throughout with safety cars, spins, and a great strategy from Aero Specialist in the end. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed that race, and I hope to see you next week. It's Friday at 7 o'clock UK time, and we'll be moving on for round 6. It'll just be 3 more rounds to go in this championship, so there's not long left, and the championship is going to be very close between Konghofner and Gazman, and possibly some other drivers getting into the mix. So we'll see you all next week, and that's all from us.